First thing I want to invoke and talk about will be in regards of the humanitarian futures in terms of capacities for the 21st century humanitarian organizations. And in order to understand that topic, I want to get back onto the summary, which is in regards of the types, dimensions, and dynamics of humanitarian crises that are increasing, and in some instances exponentially. The challenge for those with humanitarian roles and responsibilities is to have capacity to deal with increasing complexity and uncertainty, which is a starting point that is to appreciate that much of the future will have decreasing links with the past. That planning from the future affords a far more creative way to prepare for dealing with plausible crisis threats of the future. Taking aim at this challenge and the recent work has helped to create a new set of tools and resources that enhance organizational and inter-organizational capacity and capability to assess the extent to which organizations' current thinking and behavior reflects why anticipatory and adaptive capacities embraces new approaches to innovation and innovative practices, and fosters new form of collaboration and leadership at a global scale that go well beyond the humanitarian norm. So it's a very important topic and a framework to go further because it has become part of the humanitarian work for the UN agency, for intergovernmental agency and international instances when it comes to analyze the gravities of a situation. It's also a lot of work for the civil societies and NGOs. And I would like to recommend The Future of Aid NGOs in 2030, which is has been released by ARN in 2017, and there is also the Humanitarian Futures in the McGinty and Peterson analysis, which is the Rule-Age Companion of Humanitarian Action, released in New York in 2015, most specifically focus on pages 387 to 402. Planning from the Future, an Emerging Agenda, which is an international review of the Red Cross, something also to read about. It's volume 93 and it has number 884 and it has been released in December 2011. My focus within this context will be from pages 939 to 963. Getting back also to an analysis of political currents, if we want to speak about the political science and not about political propaganda, I would want to invoke here the example of Nicholas of Cusa, as you know, as very prominent character that has lived in the past in Germany, known as Nicola of Cusa, Nicola Cusanus, Nicolas de Cuse. So it's very important to analyze the way he treated politics since 1433 by proposing a reform to the Holy Roman Empire and the method to elect the Holy Roman Emperors. Although it was not adapted by the Church, his method was essentially the same one known today as the Borda count, which is used in many academic institutions, competitions, and even some political jurisdictions, in original form and a number of variation, and his proposal preceded Borda's work by over 3 centuries, as you know. Nicolas of Cusas noted that government was founded on the consent of the governed. So he said, accordingly, since by nature all men are free, any authority by which subjects are prevented from doing evil and their freedom is restrained to doing good through fear from penalties comes solely from harmony and from consent of the subjects, whether the authority resides in written law or the living law, which in having the ruler factor on it. For it, by nature, men are equally strong and equally free, the true settled of no one over the others. The rule having equal natural power could be set up only by the choice and consent of the others, just as law also is set up by consent. We know a lot about the influence of Nicholas of Cusa in the matter of economy as well, that could highlight further up in another video, but just to summarize that he was widely read, and his works were published in the 16th century in both Paris and Basel. 16th century French scholar, including Jacques Lefebvre d'Etaples and Charles de Beauvel, cited him. Lefebvre even edited in Paris 1514 opera. Nonetheless, there was no Cousin school, and his works were largely unknown until the 19th century. Through Giordano Bruno quoted him with some thinkers like Gottfried Leibniz, that were thought to have been influenced by him, which was a neo-Kantian scholar current that had begun studying Nicholas in the 19th century, and new editions were begun by the Heidelberger Akademie der Wissenschaften in the 1930s and published by Felix Meiner Verlag in the 20th century. He was hailed as the first modern thinker, and much debate since then has centered around the question whether he should be seen as essentially a medieval or Renaissance figure. Societies and centers dedicated to Cusanus can be found in Argentina, Japan, Germany, Italy, and the United States. His position in the other religions, we must highlight that shortly after the fall of Constantinople in 1453, Nicholas wrote the De Pace Fidei, on the peace of faith. This visionary work imagined the summit meeting in heaven of representatives of all nations and religions. Islam and the Hussite movements in Bohemia are represented. The conference agrees that there can be an una religio per veritate ritum, a single faith manifested in different rites, as manifested in the Eastern and Western rites of the Catholic Church. The dialogue presupposes the great accuracy of Christianity, but gives respect to other religions. Less ironic but virulent is Cusanus' Cibriatio al Corani, citing the Quran, which is a detailed review of the Quran in Latin translation, while the arguments for the superiority of Christianity are still shown in this book. It also credits Judaism and Islam with sharing in the truth, at least partially, according, of course, to Cusanus' attitude that was towards the Jews. Not always mild, because on September 21st, 1451, he ordered that Jews or Arnhem were not to wear badges identifying them as such. The De Pace Fidei mentions the possibility that the Jews might not embrace the larger union of una religio de veritate ritum, but it dismisses them as politically insignificant. This matches the decrees of Cusanus' legation restricting Jewish activities, restrictions later cancelled by Pope Nicholas V, as we all know. Or if it is a new information, as you know from now on. So, to get back onto an important topic that in this video also, as we heard about the representations of the United States in Israel, my best bet, since President Trump wanna move the diplomatic representation of the United States, to me it's a very important partnership for the United States to stay diplomatically present in Israel, and why not have, besides the embassy, several consulates, not just in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, thinking about it, but also in other big conglomeration in Israel, such as Haifa, Beersheba, or even Arziv, because Arziv is a touristic resort, and many Americans can go there for enjoying the beach resort that is Arziv. Why not having even a small representation of the country therein? So my other thing that I want to invoke in the video will be in regard of the online policy, as we know about these social media platforms, and to speak about the policy of following followers. For example, taking example of Twitter that is mostly used on the Web 2.0. I mean, we know that this is a subjective point of view. Following means being followed, but also following your audience. And seeking audience, of course, through several more research, or also through several marketing and communication policies. But the followers also have an expectation, expecting getting followed. But anyways, this is subjective. It's not my matter. So what matters to me is if I could speak, well, even if there is no objectivity regarding this matter really, but promoting mode automatically promoting your tweets and profile to targeted audience for flat expectation when it comes to ciphers, as you know. With the promote mode, could be a possibility of getting maybe a dependable follower growth and increased reach on the tweets, a clear in-app dashboards reporting your growth. No need to create tweaks campaign with this kind of matter, and I think it could help whoever speaks about these ideas of getting more followers and gaining valuable data within the context of Twitter for business. The platform Twitter is just given as an example. There are other platforms that could be used, and the main matter, I mean, that supports your dashboard and your Web 2.0 image. I mean, we know that there is also the factor of the video media, which is YouTube, and mostly YouTube as a first choice, and also the audio podcast registration recordings with the SoundCloud, for example. So these are mainly the websites that are mostly rotating around qualitative first choice Web 2.0. There are other websites, of course, second-hand. But I don't have personally an Instagram, and I don't have a Snapchat. Those websites are not subjectively, again, for my expectations on the Web 2.0's image, if you want. So that's it. Stay tuned. We'll talk furthermore about other topics in a further video. Thanks.